Imagine climbing over 46,000 feet, over 600 miles, on a bicycle that weighs 10 pounds more than the average road bicycle, and then taking the victory in a 3-stage double-century road race. On today's episode, we'll be hearing all about the epic journey of one recumbent rider who, against all odds, went on to win the 2016 California Triple Crown Series stage race, which included the Devil Mountain Double Century, the Central Coast Double Century, and the White Mountain Double Century. In part 1 of 3 today, we'll be getting introduced to this rider and hearing all about the Devil Mountain Double Century, the first stage race in the series. I'm your host, Justin Tu. Let's roll. Hey, Ultra family, Justin Tu here, your host of the Ultra Cycling Show. Super excited for today's episode with a very special guest and a good friend of mine, Jason Perez. I'd love to introduce him to you and all of his great accomplishments. Well, Jason, he resides currently in Upland, California. That's in Southern California, and it's right at the base of Mount Baldy Road. So he's riding that quite a lot. That speaks volumes about what we're going to be talking about and his caliber of riding. Now, Jason has also done many things in his past outside of road cycling and ultra endurance cycling. Before, he had another life of being a world-class professional motorcycle racer. He's also done desert motocross and endurocross. He is also an ex-ultra endurance runner. He finished in the top percentiles of many of the ultra races, including the Western States 100 and the San Diego 100. He's also been a participant in the double centuries here in California as part of the California Triple Crown. He started off with the stage race where he won that, and it included the Devil Mountain Double Century. And aside from traditional upright road biking, he is also what he calls himself a recumbent troll. So with that, Jason Perez, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining the chat.
Thanks, Justin. Happy to be here. Happy to share my experiences and knowledges with everybody.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Nice to be able to chat with you. Sorry your webcam isn't working today, but don't worry, we'll be sure to capture you in the next episode. So if you don't mind, why don't we dive into the sprint round of questions? Just short questions, 1 or 2 sentence answer, just to get the folks acquainted with who you are in a nutshell. So the first question I have for you, Jason, how long have you been riding bicycles?
Probably since I was a kid. I've rode bicycles around town, so maybe 8, 9.
Awesome. So that's at least, almost 30 years, 25, 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years of, owning a bicycle and riding a bicycle. Probably 10 years or probably less than that, probably 7 years of actually competing in any form of bicycle racing.
Cool. So ultra cycling, how long have you been an ultra cyclist?
I guess probably when I did the 24-hour World Championships, either in 2015 or 2016. That was probably my first ultra event.
That's right. You've done that on a number of occasions. Let's definitely discuss that in our conversation. We forgot to include that in your intro. Just too many accomplishments. How many bicycles do you own, Jason?
3 that aren't broken. Probably 4 or 5 if you consider the broken ones.
All right. Yeah, they still count. They live on. What's your favorite bicycle?
Oh, you know what? Oddly enough, it's going to be a bicycle I don't have anymore, but a bicycle I wish I had. I can't get it out of my mind. And that would be my single-speed mountain bike that I raced on back in 2014, 2015.
Sounds interesting. And yet again, another accomplishment and another lifetime that we forgot to introduce you about, mountain biking. But we'll get into that. What bicycle computer do you use? Garmin, a Wahoo, any other brand?
I use primarily Garmin devices on all of my GPS trackers.
Okay. Well, how many GPSs do you own?
I've got 2 wristwatches. Oddly enough, I have the second wristwatch because I lost the first one in a move and didn't discover it until 2 years later. So now I have 2 of them. And I've got a semi-working 520, and then I have a currently working, I think 830.
Sweet. Glad you found that first one. What's your favorite ride hydration?
Oh, the one I've had the most success with is actually Accelerate, which is
Okay.
kind of the dark horse of the hydration world because not a lot of people have heard of it or not a lot of people like it.
Right. Accelerate. I don't believe I've heard of that. I'm sure you've mentioned it to me before if you've been using it for a few years.
I've been using it for almost all of my ultra racing years. I originally tried Hammer Nutrition,
Right.
and during my Western States 100 event, I got about halfway through, and I couldn't stand the flavor anymore. It just had
Oh
this
yeah.
absolutely horrendous flavor, and I had to switch to something that the aid stations were providing, which was better on my stomach, but terrible for the actual supplying my muscles with what they needed. And ever
Right.
since then, I've jumped around to different things, but even though I've tried, half a dozen different brands, Accelerate, I always end up coming back to Accelerate as, my most trusted source.
Right, right. Moving along here then in our sprint round of questions. What's your favorite post-ride meal?
Wingstop.
Nice. Any particular flavor?
Oh, just original hot.
Nice. All right. Sounds good.
The hotter the better, but yeah, original hot.
All right. Cool. When was your last ride and how long was it?
If we're counting legitimate outdoor rides, I rode I want to say last Saturday. I did. It was like maybe 70 or 80 miles from the house,
Hmm.
and I think it has something like 10 or 11,000 feet of climbing because I live at the base of a mountain.
Oh,
So that
yeah.
one was that's a pretty solid ride.
Oh, definitely. That's a great ride, especially during the pandemic. Now, you mentioned outdoor. How about indoor? Have you been doing some rides since then? Indoor?
I uh, I do I do a couple events each week on the on Zwift on the virtual cycling. Um, Typically Mondays or Tuesdays, I do a solo on my own time trial, which is organized by some friends on the Cruise Bike Forum. It's kind of a virtual time trial among everybody. And that has about 40, 50 people competing on it, and it rewards people for improving their times each week. And
Interesting.
on Thursdays, I do a team time trial with a group of friends who I discovered on a Facebook page. And each week we organize up to 8 people per team. And we go out there and we race in an organized team time trial held by WTRL. And
Hmm.
those are a lot of fun.
Sounds very interesting. We'll dive into that kind of writing virtually more as well. That's an interesting topic, especially during the pandemic. So glad we've got somebody that's very active in that world. Now, when it comes to riding, do you prefer the climbs, the descents, the rollers, or the flats?
You already know the answer to this. Always
I
the
do.
descents.
Always the descents. As an ex-professional world-class motorcycle racer, it's definitely a fast descent for Jason. What's your max speed going down on a bicycle?
Oh, so far I think I've hit 67 or 68.
Wow. Do you remember where that was?
I believe that's Kirker Pass, going from Concord to I guess it would be Antioch or Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
I believe one of the times you rode with me on Patterson Pass, I believe there I've hit just over 60 on that first part before. No, it's the first part just after the false summit.
Right,
I've hit
exactly.
over 60 miles an hour on that part.
I remember that you were racing a motorcycle down there.
That's right. I did. I passed it.
Yeah, man, wouldn't forget that. Now, when do you enjoy riding the most in terms of seasons? Do you like the fall, the winter, the spring, summer, hot or cold?
I've never thought of it as seasons. I think of it as a per day basis, and I enjoy it most when it's probably about 60, 70 degrees with scattered clouds. I like the to experience the change in lighting.
Yeah, that's always nice. So, do you enjoy riding in the early morning, sunrise, or afternoon, sunset? What's kind of your time of day?
Mm, you know what? Mornings, simply because of traffic. There's less cars on the road.
Hmm.
if we're talking about that aspect. Going back to your earlier question, if I'm on the mountain bike, I like riding either early in the morning just to get my day started, or if I have the opportunity, I actually like riding late at night to the point where it's in complete darkness and I get to use lights.
Yeah, that's always fun and always makes for a great adventure on the topic of ultra endurance cycling. And so that'll be fun to talk more about because we've done a little bit of night riding ourselves. I think mostly unintentional, but other ones intentional when you're riding out to the starting line and whatnot. Okay, last two
An
questions here.
unfortunate day, an
Huh?
interesting story.
Yeah. Last two sprint round questions, and then we'll really kind of dive deeper into some other topics here. Do you think ultra cycling requires more physical or mental training?
Mental.
Mental. All right. Got another vote for that. What's your favorite event?
Oh, White Mountain Double century so far. No, you know what? Well, White Mountain Double has my favorite descent, but my favorite overall event was probably the Mulholland the Mulholland 100.
Okay, so you've even done a couple century rides as well. I'm sure very fast paced. Well, that's the end of our sprint round of questions. Thanks for all of that cool info, Jason. Really fun way to start and nice to hear about who you are in a nutshell. Let's kind of dive more into the grand tour of questions now. First question, of course, that I love asking everyone is, how on earth did you get introduced to ultra cycling? Was there somebody that introduced you to it? What event did you start with? And it sounds like for you, you did a lot of ultra running and then perhaps even ultra mountain biking before road cycling.
Um, yeah, that is a very loaded question. Um, when it comes to the ultra distance stuff, actually, the first endurance races I ever did were back when I was still a professional motorcycle racer. I did some 200-mile road races, which in the
Hmm.
motorcycle world, are considered endurance races, and they're only
Right.
about 2 hours long. But
Hmm.
controlling a motorcycle at race pace is a lot more physically demanding than just the pace you would set for a 200-mile road race or a
Hmm.
bicycle race,
Right.
because you're holding a 12-hour pace where in any type of world class or professional level event, you pace yourself to where you're completely spent at the end of your the allotted time. So if it's a
Hmm.
30-minute race, you're going to give it everything you have for 30 minutes. If it's a 12-hour race, you're going to pace yourself to where everything you have lasts for those 12 hours.
Hmm.
But so I've done a few 200-mile motorcycle races. I've done some team events that were, I think, 4 or 6 hours. And those actually have kind of a funny story behind them because of, I think, the 6 hour race that I did. I think I raced 4 hours of it, even though I had three other teammates, just because of some happenings during the event. So I've done some endurance racing on the motorcycles. I've done 24-hour racing on the mountain bikes because some of my friends invited me out and said this would be kind of interesting to do. So let's give it a shot. So I just did it. And then
So were you training at that time and you were already doing mountain biking, or give me some context there?
I don't train. I haven't trained since I was in high school for track and field or cross country. I just ride. I've always been a runner. I've always been a I've always had my mountain bike. My first running races were back when I was probably 11 or 12 years old, when my dad was training for his first marathon. He started doing a lot of local 5K and 10K events
Oh,
with a few of his brother-in-laws, and so I would go running with him, or if he was doing like his long runs, I would take my bicycle and I would
hmm.
pace alongside him and
Oh,
carry his
cool.
water. I
That's
can
awesome.
vaguely remember that. I don't think I did it that often, but he used to drag me around, and we used to do the 5K and 10K races together. So
Nice.
I remember finishing on the podium of like my age division classes back when. Such a long time ago, though.
That's really awesome. I mean, I wonder how many other people out there could say the same thing in terms of their story. Like you were pacing your dad on the bike. I remember my father was on the bicycle pacing me when I was running back in middle school and high school. Also, I that's how I started too. And so that's really cool. Would you say your dad kind of introduced you to the world of endurance sports at that time it was running?
I don't know. I've always been an active person, whether, it was playing tag with your friends, always being outdoors.
Mm,
Um, I guess just my upbringing led me to have a active lifestyle, and I've always carried
right.
through with that.
So back then in those days when you're just playing tag with your friends, were you the kind of friend that was out there way past the sunset? Everyone wants to go home, but you want to play another round?
You know what? Me and my friends were all equally motivated to break the rules. So
Mm,
yeah, we pretty much all pushed
nice.
each other. I was always
Okay.
the I was always the most creative when it came to
I
what
see.
trouble we were going to get into.
Okay. Cool. Well, yeah, looking forward to continuing this conversation, seeing what trouble you're creatively putting together for yourself in the years to come with regards to ultra cycling. So it sounds like you had a great start to your career. You did all kinds of stuff that really prepared you for the sport of ultra cycling specifically. And quite frankly, you've been very accomplished. So it sounds like you have developed many years ago the mental strength and even the physical aspects of it. Coming back to the stage race, because I don't want to just kind of skip over it like it was just something that happened, because I feel like it was a really big accomplishment in terms of kind of just getting back into the double centuries, and it wasn't too long ago. You did the DMD. How did that go during the stage race, and what were the two other events that you did that year, ultimately culminating in your win for the stage race?
Well, when I did the reasoning behind me doing the DMD was not to do the stage race. Honestly, during the event, I
Mhm.
didn't even realize it was the first event of the stage race. I'm not even sure I even knew what the Triple Crown stage race was at that point. I thought just double centuries were just their standalone events.
Right,
I
right.
didn't. I don't even think I realized it was a stage race at that point. And the reasoning behind entering the event was, uh, I think. This is what I think April when the DMD comes
Yeah.
around, and
Mhm.
the previous November is when I did the 24-hour race on cruise bike, and that's when after I did that cruise bike, they originally lent me the Vendetta V20 Recumbent, and after I did the race, I had done so well, and they saw the potential. They let me keep the bike, and so then I
Cool.
started making some modifications to it, and something that has always come up in the recumbent world, or even in the cycling world in general, related to recumbents, it's common knowledge that recumbents can't climb.
Mm.
If you ride a recumbent, you stay on the flat roads. You don't venture into the mountains because they're terrible climbers. Maybe they're unstable on the descents. They're not good at super high speeds, or there's all kinds of we'll call it misinformation, because honestly, that's what it is out
Now,
there related
just to
to them.
clarify for those who don't know what a recumbent is, just describe it a little bit. And it's in contrast to an upright bicycle, which is the kind of traditional thing that anybody would see, two wheels sitting on it sitting on a seat. What is a recumbent bicycle?
Well, it's in the name, so it is a reclined bicycle. So that's why they call it a recumbent.
Huh.
Um,
Didn't know that.
so instead of a traditional bicycle where you're sitting on the saddle and leaning forward, on a recumbent, your entire butt all the way up to your shoulders is all supported via one seat panel. Kind of like a lazy boy recliner. And if you can imagine if you can imagine your side profile when you're completely laid back on a lazy boy, where the back tips back, and as the back tips up, as the back tips back, your legs get suspended forward by the front of the chair that sticks out. And once you're fully extended backwards, that is your side profile when you're on a recumbent. You're leaning your back at a 20-degree angle. That's why the cruise bike Vendetta is called a V20, because it's at a
Mm.
20-degree seat angle. And then your crank arm is actually directly in front of you. So your body kind of sits in a horizontal plane. It's considered to be more aerodynamic, but very non-traditional. So the main drive behind doing the Double Mountain Double was because I had found a new untested challenge, and that was to do a mountainous double century or a mountainous road race on a recumbent, which is unheard of. I believe
Right.
only one person before me has finished the Double Mountain Double, on a recumbent. I believe it was a
No
trike, and I
way.
want to say it might have been my friend Zach,
Uh,
who at that time when I did the race, I didn't even realize who he was at the time. I had ridden with him, but we had never really spoken to each other. We'd only crossed paths. But so I thought, sure, I could probably do the Devil Mountain Double, and I could finish it on my regular bicycle.
mm,
But I wonder if I could do it on the recumbent because
yeah.
they're so bad at climbing. So like, would I be able to get all the way up and over Hamilton, and would I be able to climb Sierra Road without having to get off and walk? Would I have the leg strength? How long would it take me? Would I be able to finish, before dark? How many hours after dark would I be able to finish?
Mm,
What challenges would I face by doing it on a recumbent versus doing it on a standard bike, which is everybody's weapon of choice.
mm,
And so I set out to do some reconnaissance myself by taking the recumbent and doing some like Mount Diablo, hill repeats up and down Mount Diablo. I think one day I did it 4 times in a row, and that wasn't so much to do Mount Diablo 4 times in a row. I was
right.
constantly making adjustments to the headrest, making adjustments to the way the seat was fitting me because I needed the bike to be as comfortable as possible climbing because
Mm,
just because you can ride the bike on the flat ground in one position and it's comfortable doesn't mean it feels the same when you're climbing because it's funny because you just like a regular road bike
mm,
there's so many adjustments you can make to your seat, to your handlebars, to the angle of your handlebars. All those things affect how comfortable the bike is, and especially so after you've been on it for many, many hours. And
right.
a recumbent bicycle introduces a whole new world of issues that you may or that you've never even thought of. Like, for example, because of your head angle on the recumbent, when you're climbing through like a really tight switchback, like on Mount Diablo,
Mm,
you lose depth perception if you don't have your headrest set at the right angle. And the reason you use depth perception is because your nose is actually blocking the eyesight of your outside eye, which is
mm.
not something you would ever think of.
Yeah, so I remember you telling me when you got the cruise bike, how difficult it was to even learn how to ride it. Talk a little bit about that so the viewers could understand, what kind of challenge it was. I mean, first of all, it's a very different bicycle. You had to learn how to ride it, and I could imagine it also weighs more than a traditional kind of, middle to high end road bicycle.
Yeah, so like for example, my Ridley road bike at the time, I want to say weighs like 17 and a half pounds, which is
Mhm.
like your middle grade, road bike. There's guys out there on
Right.
14 pounders, and there's people that ride around, 21 pounds, which is more close to what I have now on my road bike.
Hmm.
The cruise bike comes in at about 26, 27, depending on
No
how you
way.
have it equipped. So,
So that's at least about 10 pounds or more.
you're looking at an average of 10 pounds heavier. And,
Right.
everybody sees that and freaks out. But
Yeah,
as you recall, I used to wear a 10-pound weight vest on the noon rides that I would do with you guys.
that's right.
And, a lot of times you guys actually wouldn't be able to tell if I had it on or not. 10 pounds makes a difference, but it doesn't make that big of a difference.
Hmm. Now, how
And
about on the Devil Mountain Double Century and those two other stage races? I mean, you're covering 19,000 feet of climbing within 200 or so miles. I mean, that is kind of the challenge that you're putting yourself up to. It wasn't just about, oh, riding the Devil Mountain is one of your first double centuries. It was doing it on a brand new bicycle where you had to even learn how to balance on it and ride it. And then talk about riding up those very steep pitches, especially on Sierra Road, on the recumbent bike and the challenges that poses.
so the my biggest fear on the Devil Mountain Double while riding the cruise bike was because the cruise bike is a unique recumbent in the fact that it's a front wheel drive recumbent and not rear wheel drive,
Hmm.
is that it's extremely steep grades. You're talking like when you get up above like 12 to 15%,
Mhm.
because all of your weight is now falling back on the rear wheel and you're driving the bike with the front wheel. You have the
Hmm.
tendency to spin the front wheel under surges of power. Now, if you
Oh, I
can
see.
pedal in completely smooth circles, on smooth power without accelerating, then you can maintain traction, perfectly. But as every cyclist knows, we don't pedal in perfect circles, and there's
Hmm.
certain surges to our pedal stroke. And as you get more tired, those surges become a lot more prominent because it becomes more difficult to maintain that pedal stroke. And so during the entire event, I just really paced myself easy. I was the first person in the 6 o'clock start because it has a 5 o'clock start and it has a 6 o'clock start. And, I don't know what my thought process was of starting at the later, faster group. Maybe I just wanted to be around the faster people. Maybe I wanted to have them around me so it would at least, keep me from going too slow. But even though I was the first person to start up Mount Diablo because of the downhill previous to it, where I pulled away, I was definitely the last person to the top of Mount Diablo. Everybody had passed me within the first 2 miles of the climb. And I believe I had caught a few of them on the descent, and then I started sucking them up on the flats leading to the second major climb, which I believe is Morgan Territory. But the whole goal going into that event was to have fun, to finish, and not walk up Sierra Road. So, it was just, if I got to the top of Sierra Road, everything after that I could handle. I just didn't want to get to Sierra Road and be so burnt out that I was pedaling in squares, spinning the front tire, losing speed, and having to get off and walk in road cycling shoes, which is just a terrible experience.
Wow.
And so I really, really held back through the first, 150 miles. And, to my surprise, I got to Sierra Road and I absolutely crushed it. I made it up no problem. I passed probably half a dozen cyclists on there. I only spun the front wheel a couple times, around some of those right-hand turns, which I know you personally will be able to remember. And but I never came to a stop, and I just it was never any problem. I just got right up to the top of it. And then after I got to the top of the climb, you remember what the next 30, 40 miles is. It's just like rolling downhills with only one more climb. And that's kind of the territory of the recumbent. It really excels in that area. So I don't remember really paying attention to my position in the race. I thought if I could finish in the top 30 and finish in less than 16 hours, that would have been a really good accomplishment. I think I finished the race in 13 hours and change, and I believe fifth overall, which was really quite the surprise. Right. So I think it was like 45 minutes behind the overall leader. So there's still quite a big time difference between me and the winner, but I did way, way, way better than I ever considered.
That's an excellent result. 13 hours for the Devil Mountain Double. That is an excellent result. And for people to understand what you were dealing with climbing up Sierra Road, that comes after about 150 miles. And at this point, you've climbed over Mount Diablo, you've done Morgan Territory, Patterson Pass, Mines Road.
You've probably done at least 15, you've probably done 15,000 feet of climbing by that point.
Right, exactly. And so going up that with super steep pitches, I believe you're climbing about 1,800 feet, 3 or so miles. So it just talks about the grade that you're dealing with all those miles and all that elevation gain already in your legs. And you were on this 27-pound recumbent bicycle, hardly being able to keep a balance. And that must have been a huge challenge in itself. But congratulations on that finish. That was incredible. Now, just kind of touch on what were the other 2 stage races that you participated in? So you got 5th in the DMD, but overall you ended up winning the stage race, correct? That year?
Yeah, if you combine the times of the 3 events, I did end up winning by a very narrow margin.
All right, Ultra family, that's it for part 1 of 3 in this stage race recap. I hope you join us for the next episode where we'll be discussing Jason's race in the Central Coast Double Century. Until then, keep spinning Ultra.